Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
All right, Gerald, I want to ask you this. Considering the situation with the impeachment, what is the next step for the Democrats? Are they still in it?
Well, you know what one of the big problems is with the whole impeachment thing? They still haven't forwarded the articles over to the Senate, so there is no impeachment, really. And what's going on is if they do ever get them over there, they're going to have to be tried before the Senate, who will have to find beyond a reasonable doubt, at least to the satisfaction of 2/3 of the senators, that's 67, that, in fact, Trump has been guilty of violating the Constitution. The Constitution, Article 2, Section 4, says that a president or vice president may be impeached upon conviction of bribery, treason, high crimes, or misdemeanors in office. And frankly, abusing or exceeding the exercise, abusing your authority is not a crime. Being in a position of, not even contempt of Congress, but simply just obstructing Congress is not a crime, because presidents have done that throughout the history of the country. And Congress members have done that to the president throughout the history of the country. That's not a crime. So what the Senate has talked about so far is just having a voice vote on whether or not the article should be dismissed outright for failure to state a constitutional question. That's sort of like old-time civil demurrer in a law action, or what they call a motion upon the pleading, which take everything that one side said in its best light. That doesn't state any grounds to go forward. So they have put themselves in a mess. Obstructing Congress, that's what presidents do. Exceeding your authority or abusing your authority is not any of the above. That's just something that Congress can take care of if it has the majority in both houses, that's the Senate and the House of Representatives, to override what the president does. He obstructs the will of Congress, or obstructs Congress all the time, if and when he vetoes a piece of legislation. So, it's just a bunch of crap. They spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of time, and it just shows that we've got a new kind of attitude in place, which is, I don't think I can do it. I want to take my ball and go home, but I can't take my ball, so I don't want to play like this. And that's what you're getting.
Yeah, I think it is weird that she's holding on, Nancy Pelosi, to the articles of impeachment. And it sounds like don't really help a
case. She
case.
can't send them over because it's embarrassing. If I were Mitch McConnell, I'd just have a voice vote and vote the damn thing down to failure to state any articles. And it's embarrassing. Like, wow, what did you do?
Yeah, also, I look at the Ukraine situation. It seems like to me that Joe Biden really got something to hide versus Donald Trump.
Yeah, and if they do decide to go, the Senate can call witnesses, and they might call Biden Sr. and Jr., and that would definitely be an embarrassment. You know what that is? What's the old proverb? Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
Right, and
That's dumb.
Yeah. And also, it makes Joe Biden, he used his powers as vice president to bully and intimidate a foreign power. It's like he's like Tony Soprano doing extortion.
You know what? It's worse than that. Out there, and I've seen the video twice, I think it was it involves a conference they had on C-SPAN, and he's on stage and he's part of a panel, and they're asking questions. And this past January 2019 when he says it. He says, I guess I committed bribery. Now, that's what the Constitution says is grounds for removal from office. And he says, I threatened to withhold $85 billion in loan guarantees if they didn't fire this guy. Why? Because he was supposedly so ineffective. But I think the guy's name was Slokia or something like that, or Sokia. I can't remember right off the top of my head. And he's the one that was zeroing in on Biden's son and the company that Biden's son was working for. Now, interestingly enough, the company didn't hire Biden's son until his daddy got assigned to Ukraine by the White House as his domain. And the son had just been discharged from the military dishonorably for drug problems. And he has no business background, and the Bidens got in $18.5 million in return for all of that. And the Chinese are holding up because the Biden boy is involved in a project with the same company over there, and they have questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Judge.
I mean, it's not just a high crime in office, or it's not a specific offense, bribery in office. It's also a federal crime, and the statute of limitations hasn't run, and technically Biden could be prosecuted for it, and his son.
Yeah, but
complicit.
You know, it reminds me so to speak, how when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and how she used her office to, I guess, get stuff for the Clinton Foundation. Like she was doing deals with foreign powers. That seemed to be unethical.
Worse than that. All of these people had to fill out and sign under penalties of perjury a disclosure information document. Trump did too. And one of the things that Hillary declared on hers is she got $13 million in speaking fees under the auspices of Goldman Sachs. And it turns out that we find through the Russian revealed hacked emails that it was exactly twice that $26 million. I don't know why someone doesn't go in and investigate that and prosecute her for perjury, just like they did her husband.
Who was also impeached, one of the three presidents, along with Donald Trump and Andrew Johnson.
Convicted. Nixon was going to be impeached, but he was not. And Johnson from Tennessee, late of the Civil War, and a Democrat who took over after Lincoln was assassinated, was impeached, but there was one vote shy of him being convicted.
So you had
you know how many people have been convicted of impeachment by the U.S. government who held federal offices in the entire history of the country? It's exactly 3.
And then you look at the fact that 2 of them were Democrats, and one was a lifelong Democrat that turned Republican.
Yeah, and that did not include, and that doesn't, of course, include presidents. That's just officials of all nature in the country's history.
And that's fascinating to know, because I think a lot of people understand what impeachment is. Like, people celebrate this.
Look, I'll give you a clear, very simple definition. Impeachment is like indictment. People get indicted all the time, and they stand trial, and they are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So impeachment does just as an indictment does. It initiates a process. There's an accusation, and the accusation has to be proved to the satisfaction of another body. In the criminal matters, it has to be proved to the satisfaction of a jury. And when it comes to an impeachment matter, what happens is that it has to be tried in front of the Senate. An impeachment is exactly the same as an indictment. It's an accusation only. It carries no inference of guilt or culpability. The body that is charged with trying the accusation is the Senate. What happens is if the Senate convicts, then the person's removed. Impeachment is a form of indictment.
So it's not even indictment is not a conviction. What you're saying?
No, it's not. It's an accusation. It's a formal accusation.
See, this is why
sitting on it, because she has probably sense enough to realize that what the House rammed through is not going anywhere. So I think they may be trying to come up with a third article that doesn't make them look like too big a set of fools when they come up with it. See, the media has been doing the public a disservice by not explaining what's going on, and everybody goes, oh, he's gone now. He got impeached. Well, no, you're not. That's just a formal accusation. And Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution says the president and vice president may be impeached and, if convicted, removed from office for the offense of bribery, treason, high crimes, or misdemeanors in office. And what they have right now doesn't state any of those.
See, like, no, I'm glad you broke that down, Jim, because it was the media supposed to do. They're supposed to inform the people of the process, and people are so lazy right now. They lazy research. I can talk to anybody in America right now about football scores and stats and stuff like that. They can't. Nobody reads the Constitution, but everybody knows about football. Everybody knows about who's in the standings, who's in the playoffs, stats, and everything. But when it comes to stuff that's serious like this, like impeachment and politics, people don't have a clue.
Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, I just quoted you the whole thing. The president and the vice president of the United States may be removed from office upon impeachment and conviction thereof for bribery, treason, high crimes, or misdemeanors in office.
And you know what? They have not proved that Donald Trump broke a law.
They can't. They didn't even charge him with breaking a law. See, under the U.S. laws, code sections, abuse of authority is not a crime.
And you know what was interesting? You said,
and then effectively attempting to block the will of Congress is what they have is not a crime either. You remember how many times has a president vetoed an act of Congress? How many times does Congress refuse to go along with what a president wants?
It's interesting because I'm thinking about McCarthyism, and Joseph McCarthy was a senator from Wisconsin who did the witch hunt back in the 50s, but there were communists in the government. But what people don't understand with Joseph McCarthy, he gave Bobby Kennedy his first job in the Capitol as his counsel. And he was close friends with the Kennedys. He's an Irish Catholic. He dated some of the Kennedy sisters. And, people don't know, he was the godfather of Bobby Kennedy's first daughter, who became the lieutenant governor of Maryland at one point. They try to rewrite their history. So the Democrats basically stay true to their roots because, I don't understand why we as black people are so beholden to the Democrats when they really have done a lot of things to obstruct the civil liberties of black people in America.
And see, one thing, these leftists are attempting to suppress the Bill of Rights in a way that the right wing never did.
Right.
And the worst part about it is the leftists are deep into that Orwellian animal farm thing. All animals were equal, but the pigs were more equal than other animals. See, that's what time it is. So you've got some very dangerous assaults on the Bill of Rights, and people ought to be very, very circumspect about that. I don't mind people being gay. That's their damn business. I find it distasteful, but it's their business. But they have insinuated themselves into the political process over the last 50 years. And I can remember on UCLA's campus in the 60s when they were pontificating about, preaching about, analyzing, and promising that they were going to get themselves in control of the print media, of television and motion picture production, and they were going to spread their word, and the word is that black people are down at the bottom of the totem pole. It's outright rank racism, that something's wrong with masculinity and the traditional family needs to be destroyed. And by the way, I tweeted today the statement of purpose for Black Lives Matter. And 7 out of the 11 points are all supporting LGBT. And they all say that they are attempting to destroy, and one of the words is that they are attempting to deliberately destroy the Western traditional family. And they also use the word queer. We are attempting to spread queerness and get away from heterosexuality. They say that explicitly.
Wow.
And, you know, what is it? They've taken every damn thing over. They have infiltrated and insinuated themselves in everything. And they have an organizational knack, it seems, where they can take advantage of situations and turn them to their benefit. Now, that's what you do with the political process. And quite frankly, we might prosper by watching them and taking a clue from what they are doing. They took a clue from what the radical left was doing way back when, and they have become the radical left. But they're advancing a cause, LGBTQ, not just homosexuality, but a lifestyle that goes along with it. And see, that's what's happened to us with the Black Caucus, etc. We don't have a caucus of black people representing black interests. We've got a caucus that ought to be called BLGBTQ. Black lesbians, black lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transvestites.
Now, that's interesting, because, you know, you look at who's backing the so-called Black Lives Matter. You look at somebody like George Soros, the billionaire. And, you know, Malcolm told us in a message to the grassroots about who backed the Negro Civil Rights Movement. He was naming the names and stuff like that. So we got to follow the money.
Yeah, and the money is because 7 out of the 11 points of principle that LGBT have got to do with Black Lives Matter has got to do with LGBT. Yes, I mean, maybe you like them, but the bottom line is what they have as their core, and several of those 11 points specifically go to the destruction of the traditional family. Also, they go to queering. They use the word queering of the process. They use the word of removing the man from the household. They use the term elimination of masculinity.
Yes, sir. And it's right there in their mission statement. You can find it online?
You can find it online, and I'll send you the bloody doggone thing right now.
Yes, sir.
Take a look at it. But, I mean, it's bad.
And it definitely sounds bad. I don't think people know how serious it is because people don't really study. Like, you know, you look at a lot of people got these YouTube scholars. People follow people. People like the cult of personality. They like to follow people, not do any fact checking or researching on their own. And so we're getting to a dangerous ground here where people are not really using logic and being objective about things, being very emotional. But it speaks to the 50-year agenda you said that started 50 years ago to emasculate people, to get rid of the hetero male symbol. Because I know we can get into a lot of stuff now, but you know, in the Hollywood stuff, how they trying to really reinvent Malcolm's image now with this Godfather Harlem series and what they're doing on Netflix with the Who Killed Malcolm X thing. Like every so often they try to reinvent Malcolm X's image and stuff like that and really hide the truth that, you know, we all know that the government has been involved in removing the heads of our leadership.
I just sent it to you.
Yes, sir. And I got it. I'm definitely going to post it where people can see it as well, and hopefully people can get the clue.
Well, open it and read it. It's interesting. You see what I mean. They've got 11 points. 7 of them deal with LGBT.
And you know what said Judge Joe Brown about our movement back in the day in the Civil Rights Movement? It was when the black family was working together that we made a lot of strides in getting our rights and stuff like that. It was when black men and women working together along with the children. I think about Project C Birmingham when the kids went to jail. Well, I think about the Montgomery bus boycott when the men were armed and protecting the women. You had the cab, you know, everybody was carpooling and whatnot. Because when they talk about the Montgomery bus boycott movement, they don't talk about the fact that you had black women being raped by white police officers and bus drivers.
Well, let's talk about that. When we think about that, who do we think is the one that refused to move to the back of the bus and ended responsible for bringing King in to end discrimination in bus transportation in Selma?
Montgomery, Rosa Parks, yes.
Yeah. Montgomery. All right, here. Now, how about this one? Let's go back, I guess it's 117 years before that. Let's go to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Ever heard of Elizabeth Jennings?
Yes, sir. You could tell us who she is, yes.
Okay, Elizabeth Jennings, they used to have a holiday based on her birthday, which was September 22nd. In New York City, they've got an Elizabeth Jennings Street, and over top of that street sign, it says Rosa Parks Street. They co-named the street. Here's what that's about. In July 16th, 1854, Elizabeth Jennings, who was a free black woman, a school teacher, decided to get on a horse-drawn trolley in New York City. The rule was that a black, say a servant, could get on if no white passengers objected to the person getting on and sitting in the back. Well, she got on and the conductor objected to her. She refused to get off. He laid hands on her. They had a struggle. The driver came back from driving it after he stopped the trolley. They had a struggle. They threw her off physically. She jumped back on. They stopped in front of a police precinct. The cop got on. They went to the end of the line, and it was still rural outside of New York in those days, and they threw her off of the trolley in the woods. So her father, who, interestingly enough, the elder Mr. Jennings, is the first black man to hold a patent. You know what the patent was on?
Well, dry cleaning or something like that?
Dry cleaning, which we still use the process today.
Wow.
And guess who else? Frederick Douglass, the great Frederick Douglass, organized a protest against that. They hired an attorney, the young Chester Arthur, who later became president of the United States, to file a lawsuit. Ms. Jennings won the lawsuit, got money damages, and the public transportation in New York got desegregated. That was in 1855.
Wow.
But we don't give her any credit. Somebody that didn't move to the back of the bus, we give him a lot of credit, but not for that. The baseball player, Jackie Robinson, only got into baseball because he got court-martialed because in Texas in 1943, he refused to remove himself to the back of a bus. He happened to have been officer of the day at the base, and he had on his 45, and the testimony at his court-martial was that he said, somebody's going to die tonight besides me. We don't give him any credit for being a stand-up guy like that.
Wow.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on in our history that we neglect. Some glorious history.
Yeah, even Ida B. Wells in 1885, too. She refused to get off the train.
Ida B. Wells, and then you've got Sojourner Truth. See, white people got behind, they made the movie on the woman.
Oh, Harriet.
Yeah, Miss Tubman. She's a fine lady, but, she escorted maybe 200 folk, 250 slaves to freedom. Well, Frederick Douglass got a few million free. He's the one that, by the way, he helped found the Republican Party in 1852 or 1. He is one of the impetus. He is an impetus behind the abolitionist movement. He befriended John Brown, the one that died raiding Harper's Ferry Arsenal.
Right.
He helped isolate the South during the Civil War by touring Europe and speaking against them. He was a ferocious reader and prolific writer and speech maker, very articulate. He is largely the driving engine working with Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Congress, House and Senate, and getting the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments passed. He organized the 54th Massachusetts Colored Volunteer Infantry Regiment, and his son died in service in that regiment, shot during a charge on that fort down there in South Carolina that they took over or captured for a while. And he did a lot. He also escaped from slavery, and he's supposed to have shot 2 or 3 white folk trying to re-enslave him. So he's the real deal. Kind of a Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Thurgood Marshall, Huey P. Newton, all rolled up into one.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we don't deal with that kind of thing. See, and the white feminist wanted Harriet Tubman because she's supposed to pull the gun on some white people. And they looked at her as being the subject of a movie they could use to get some woman on currency. They were going to have a white woman play her, and that's from the mouth of the director of this movie. And the movie makes black men look like cowardly worms and makes black slave catchers the bad guys, but the white slave owners are reasonable and they understand, and the only reason they're in opposition to slavery is it's an economic matter and they got too much money sunk into it, but they understand. See, I mean, it's poison. I don't want to get back into that bill thing, but it's just like they always change the rules. They always insinuate, and they always try to exclude the black man. That's what they've done with Black Lives Matter. Now, just imagine, you're talking about all of these black men killed by the police, and everybody is talking about one of the problems is there's no father in the house to get these boys man training, but 7 out of the 11 points of the platform for Black Lives Matter is getting black men out of the home. Out, not in, to get rid of masculinity, to queer things up in their language, to end the traditional Western family.
Wow.
Now, I mean, what is that?
Well, it's sabotage what it is, and I just think like once again you go back to the civil rights movement. We were at our best, like this Queen and Slim movie, right? That came out. I don't know if you've seen that Queen and Slim movie.
Yeah, and I have. Have you seen who wrote it?
Yeah, I know who wrote. Yeah, the lesbian lady who's behind a lot of different other TV shows and movies.
Seen her with her wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, while I was telling people when I did a review, I said, if that is, like you just talked about our amazing history that we don't talk about the sister Elizabeth Jennings, but you also had a real Queen and Slim and Robert F. Williams and Mabel Williams, who actually did go to Cuba, and they won, and they just died. They died in an old age. They came back to America. They won in court, represented by William Kunstler. Also, he was a guest of honor in Cuba for Castro and Che Guevara, and also for China. And they could quite possibly gave the Nixon administration the intel so Nixon could become the first president to visit China. So this is a story that we don't talk about, and he was eulogized by Rosa Parks. He died of leukemia back in October 1996, and his wife lived to 2014.
Yeah, see,
so why we don't talk about their story?
And see, one thing that the mass media does is they try to isolate and marginalize black people. You got a lot of black heroes, but they try to keep them suppressed, and they pick token black heroes to push.
Right. So
anyway, brother, I gotta go. I'm making some people wait on me. I'm supposed to meet up for a bite, so let me go tend to that. But anyway, Dr. Short's there. I'm sure he'll hold for it.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to look forward to talking to Dr. Short. But thank you for the food for thought, as always, Judge. Enjoy your time, and thank you for being the treasure that you really are and for sharing that information, that wealth of information you have.
All right. Thank you, brother. Have a great one.
You too. God bless. We love you madly. Take care.
Hey, everybody. This is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor.
Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that jingle review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.